Tonight, I want to talk to you a little bit about communicating effectively in English. And I'm going to point out some mistakes that I see that are commonly made either here in Poland or in general Europe. So if I can turn this on. Okay, so but before I get into it, some of you already know me, and some of you have seen me around, and that's because I actually do live and work here in Poland. As you can guess, I'm not originally from here. Yeah, I think it's my accent. But I grew up and I was born and raised and educated, in fact, in California. But I have been coming to Poland on and off for 2 years, so I am aware of some of the challenges that startups face here, and I am aware of all the events that go on. So that being said, I kind of want to get into a little bit about my background so you know a little bit about where I'm coming from. In 2009, I graduated from the University of California, Berkeley, as a Japanese language and culture, and also linguistics major. And immediately following my graduation, I joined a company as a technical writer it was a financial software group. And our development was actually based all in Romania. It was about 120 guys, and all of our development was based there. And my job there was to transform our documentation and any of our materials, actually, from development in Romania and make it consumable for our clients who were in places like the US, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Australia. During this time, I also was a consultant for a couple Silicon Valley-based startups. I actually see someone who has a Taptera shirt here. Yeah. So I was doing some work for them as well, and I was doing some consulting for companies who do have their development outsourced here to Warsaw in particular. And this is where it's important for you guys. There's no question that Poland and Warsaw have some of the best technological development teams in the world. But the two areas which really need they have huge areas. There's a huge area of improvement for marketing and communication in English. For native Polish entrepreneurs and business women and businessmen. Right. So this talk is going to get into we're going to jump right into some examples. Some I've picked up here in Poland. Some are actually more general things that you can apply to your documentation or that you can apply just to your general professional communications so that you have something valuable to take away from this. Other than hire a native speaker to do everything for you. But hopefully it will be useful for you. So this is the first thing I want to talk about. Pretty good. How are you guys feeling? Pretty good, right? How are you feeling? Pretty well. How's your product doing on the market? Pretty good. No. I hear this quite often, and I heard it a few times actually at Warsaw Startup Weekend when asked, well, what is this feature or how is this product? And well, it works pretty good. Pretty good is not pretty good in the professional world. Make no mistake, pretty good will never be good enough in the professional world. When you are talking about something like how business is doing, you kind of can't respond with this pretty good. It's considered weak, and I understand that Polish has a direct translation of pretty good, but in English the connotation is okay. It's pretty good, but something's wrong. And I have a really good example of this, which is okay. So this example was given to us by none other than Boris, eminent CEO of Filmmaster. In a customer talk, the guy asked him, how stable is your platform? To which he replied, pretty stable. And we were standing there like, no, it's very stable, it's reliable, it's extremely stable. So the problem with this is that the pretty is a weird qualifier, and if you don't know how to use it, usually it's used casually. If you don't know how to use it, it's not going to be to your advantage. This is also true for some other, let's say, adverbs like almost. We have almost 10,000 users. That's really weak. What you want to say is, we are about to reach 10,000 users, or we have over 9,000 users at the moment, and we're always growing. So this shift in language, if you're not sure that something is absolutely the best, just don't use it. So here are some examples. If someone asks you, how is business going? You can say, business is going really well. We're excited about new opportunities that we have coming up, and we actually have a couple new ideas that we're implementing in the next few weeks. Can I talk to you about them, right? But I could be totally bankrupt and have no startup behind me, but what I've conveyed to the person, right, is that I'm optimistic and I'm enthusiastic about what I'm talking about my product and my business. So it's really important that you communicate absolute positivity when you are referring to your product, or your service, which is kind of like your baby. You wouldn't just say your baby is pretty good. The next one is I'm sorry. And if you guys were here for one of the previous OpenReactors, you might have heard a guest speaker named Jerry Colonna, US-based investor, ask the audience who in here has to, or who feels that they have to apologize sometimes for being Polish. And the audience, said, some here. And the solution to this is really just stop apologizing. Now, this doesn't mean don't account for mistakes or missteps that you make in a conference or a meeting or a presentation. But it means stop using "I'm sorry," and I heard this a lot from our Romanian developers, and I heard this a lot. I do hear this a lot in Poland when I was at Startup Weekend. If someone didn't understand something, it's "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand," or "I'm sorry, it's not working at the moment." "I'm sorry, something isn't going right." But what you can do is use different vocabulary. If you make a mistake, say, "Oh, my mistake, I didn't mean to do that, can we try again?" If you did something unexpected, something like, "Excuse me, I need to take a moment," or "Excuse me, we need to figure out what's going on here," but not "I'm sorry, we don't know what's going on." And another really good tactic here is to thank the person for whatever went wrong. So a lot of times you'll hear, "Oh, thank you for bearing with us while we block the road for an hour," or we really appreciate you waiting for us while our presentation just crashes right in front of you. But you really want to express a positive emotion, and "I'm sorry" has very negative connotations. So "I'm sorry" is something that you tell someone after you've been drunk and you've said really bad things. The morning after, you have to say, "I'm sorry I said those things." Or if someone's cat dies, you say, "I'm really sorry." In a professional landscape, "I'm sorry" doesn't really cut it. You're not sorry to anyone in a business sense, unless you totally crash and they've been on your system for a few years, and we've had this happen before. Then you can say "I'm sorry," but it's used very sparingly. Okay, so the third one is "it's possible," and this one is a little bit tricky, but I do hear this from time to time when a potential customer is asking someone if a feature or service is available in their company. And what I hear is, "Okay, do you support Twitter integration, or do you have Google Plus integrations, or do you have a Facebook integration?" And, an answer here is it's possible. It's possible. And that's, no, I know, I'm not. You inspire me. But really, it's possible here, I think, means that, yes, it's an option that you have and that's it. But the connotation in English is really that anything possible is just greater than zero chance of happening. So, like, it's possible that one day Americans could be better than Europeans at soccer. Or it's possible that beer one day will be better in the US than it is in Europe, right? It's possible. It's possible. Yeah, exactly. So if you're telling me that you have a feature that's possible, I just think, okay, you don't have it. Let's move on. I don't want to bother with, asking you to develop a whole new thing, right? So when someone asks you if you have a feature, it's a yes or no question. But the trick is that you can always answer with a yes answer, even if you don't have it. So of course, if you have the feature, if you do support Twitter integrations and all that, you can say, yes, we support it, of course. If there's some work that needs to be done still on the project, then you can say, yes, it's implemented already, but there are some steps that we need to do to make it live. And if you have no idea, if this guy just sprung the idea on you and it sounds like a good idea, you can say, not yet, but that's something that we can definitely do. We have implemented other solutions which are similar to this one, so of course it would be no problem to implement this. And in this way, if someone asks you for a feature, it means that they kind of want it. So you always want to be on the side of, yes, we can do that for you, not no or it's possible. Okay, so these are a few general tips that are useful for you either in your job applications, resumes, CVs, your company descriptions, your website. This is more text-based, things you can also use on your website. And this is basically a talk about the verb. And American English in particular values action over let's say who you are. So that's why you always hear the saying, it's not who you are, it's what you do. And that's why when you hear investors come here to say, it doesn't matter if you failed in a startup, it's actually seen as something, but the point is you're not saying you're a CEO, you're not a boss, you failed something, you achieved something. It's really about the action that goes into what you've done, the achievement. So the first thing I want to talk about is use the verb first, of course, when you want someone to do something. Now, this can be either a call to actions, which you already know if you're like a UX guy or a web developer. Click here, buy this, learn more, take a tour. You're using very short, simple verbs to navigate the user around a website. And this is very important. And if you want anyone to do anything, you need to use a verb. And this is true for also emails that you send out. Let us know. Take a minute to look over the materials, respond to us. So I do want to get into one more detailed example, though. So this is an example of someone who wrote about their development experience, I think on LinkedIn. He is Polish. I don't know if he's here. I think we randomly took this from somewhere. He's not? Okay. So I was responsible for development and maintenance of X web application, including rewriting old code base, improving security, and scalability. Now, this might seem fine to you guys, but as someone who has read over like 800 applications in my life, this actually means nothing. And that's because there's no action in the sentence, and I'll show you why. The only actual verb in this sentence is was. And okay, including is kind of a verb here, but I'll get to that in a minute. The only actual verb here is was. And it's not even really like a verb, it's just that you existed, right? So, so when I look at this, all I see is that you were something, development, maintenance, it included rewriting and improving, but that's related to development, so that's not what you did, right? I have no idea what you did, actually. So if we rewrite this and start with a verb, you can simply say you developed and maintained X web application. Now I know that you're a developer. I know that you can maintain a live system. I know a lot more things because there's movement and there's action involved. Significantly improved security and scalability. I know that you're an ideas guy, that you can improve upon existing systems and solve problems. So when I look at this, this is what I see. You developed, you maintained, and you improved something by rewriting. And that's very effective because it's action-based and not noun-based. Let's go to the next example. The adjective. This is also related. Adjectives first when you're describing your skill set. So this is also on the resume, but this isn't about when you're trying to convince someone of something you've done, but rather describe your skills. So skills, C++, PHP, that's nothing. You have to say incredibly good at this, or let me just make some things up. Pretty good. Yeah. Or, epic guru of UX design, right? Like fast coder, like beautiful code. Ninja, sure. Readable code, beautiful code. Those are some of my favorites because it shows that the person actually is caring about some aesthetic. But what I really want to get into is describing features either on your website or in a live pitch or a presentation. So this is as you know, the iPhone 5 product page at the moment. And really, all this document are these 4 adjectives. Everything else is kind of boring. Wireless, retina display, design, ASICs chip. Like, no one knows what that means, right? But they do know what the other ones mean. And that's because Apple is notorious for using very powerful adjectives to evoke emotion. And that's because adjectives are always fresh. So you can use these same adjectives to describe a steam engine from, way back when. Back then, at one point, they were all new, ultra fast, and powerful, right? So when you're describing your product, this is a very good general rule to follow. Powerful adjectives will always get the message across. I'm going to play a video real quick. I think you'll get the idea without me saying anything else.
Thanks for coming this morning. We've got some fun stuff. So I'd like to start.
Good morning, everyone. Significant, even more significant, it's incredible. An incredible, extraordinarily incredible, again, incredible, stunning, more amazing, great, remarkable, incredible, great, incredible, jaw-dropping. Thank you.
I like best, amazing, incredibly good, great, wonderful.
Well, good morning, everyone. Great news, amazing, gorgeous, amazing, really great. Everyone loves koalas. Beautiful, thank you.
That's awesome. Beautiful, really excited, really simply, really fun.
Thanks, Steve. Really exciting, nice, really amazing.
Awesome. Great new features, great features.
I'm very excited. Great, kind of a mess. Just a single click in perfect rhythm. Much better. Perfect, great lesson.
Okay.
Even better, great.
Okay. We're going to move on from that, but you get the idea. This is the world that, they live in, and it's just filled with these types of adjectives. So it may seem corny, and it may seem like, it's adding things that don't matter, but it is quite effective because this guy sells quite a bit of things, I would assume. I don't really know. Okay, so the last sort of example that I want to give is something a little more complicated, and it's related to public speaking or handling maybe, let's say, an American investor. Excuse me. Hello? Excuse me. So this, I think, comes up a lot at Filmmaster. Someone says something that is either completely wrong about our product or it's just not true. or it's meant to be sort of challenging, right? So, for example, I think an investor told us, well, your technology is already used by many of these customers, so there's no market for you. In particular, he said, I think it was many VODs. Most VODs already have recommendations, and Filmmaster does film recommendations, right? And he said, so there's no market for you. So the normal response, I think, for Polish people or Europeans in general is to just say, no, that's not true. And in fact, it's a normal, natural response for anyone to say, no, that's not true, right? But these are some skills that are actually used by politicians to divert attention when someone is telling you something that you know is not true about your product, or is saying something factually that you want to disprove. So the first thing is you agree or yield. You say, it may be true that some VODs deploy a technology like ours, and you've weakened their argument also by saying that only some VODs may deploy technologies like ours. And now, once you've done that, you can move on to asserting yourself. But we at Filmmaster, for instance, have talked to the customers directly, and we know the market, and they are interested in our product. And then you can move on to telling them now why they're wrong. So this is kind of how it would go. If you said, I already know that companies are deploying your product, and why is it different from this and this and this? And you can say, well, it's true that these products have these features in some places, but what we do here is a lot different, and we know the market because we've built our product specifically for customers and what they're asking. So it's not correct to say that it's not correct to start from. Well, it's not correct to. Let me. Excuse me. Let me start over. Okay, so it may be true that some VODs deploy recommendation technologies, but we've talked to these guys and we know the market, and they are the ones who are actually asking us for the product and for the features. We respond to the market's needs. So it is not true that it might be true that many VODs are deploying recommendation technology, but what is true is that they are very interested in what we have to offer. And now it's sort of become, he can't disagree with you because you've agreed with him in the first place that, yes, maybe your argument is true in some contexts, but we know better than you. And that's really the attitude that you have to take because, it's positive and it's assertive and it's enthusiastic, and if you aren't able to act that way when communicating with challenging people, then the message doesn't really get across. Yeah. It's a skill to develop argumentation, and you do have to use all the failures before to really define, how your arguments are strong. We didn't expect these kinds of questions, but it is important to then go back once that call is over and then really figure out if you were right or not, so that the next time someone asks it right, it's taken care of. Okay, this is my last slide. These are quick tips for documentation. Sorry, but at some point, you're going to need to get a native. If you do want to enter the international market and be aggressive in that space, then it is critical that you get a native of course, that country, or a native English speaker who is going to vet your materials and make sure that the message that you're communicating is the right one. And these people are very accessible. I mean, you can even do them online through services like Odesk. But eventually, as your company expands, this is a must-have, and there's no getting around it as Polish entrepreneurs. If you're at a stage where maybe you can't afford a contract or a hire, or you just want to try it out for yourself, copy-paste. It isn't piracy, it's copying. And what this means is if you've never written something like a service level agreement before, take one from someone else. Replace the meat and then fill in your words. And companies like Oracle, for instance, have tons of products and they're all well documented and they're very public. So so I mean, yeah. Take those documents and copy the wording word for word. Replace what you need. And the thing is, that copying service level agreements or white papers isn't plagiarizing because those guys have definitely copied it from somewhere else. They all look the same. That's true. The last tip is Google everything. I think this one is a bit overlooked because people use Google as a search engine, but if you aren't sure of if your language is in English, search the phrase. And if it's not if the construction isn't in the first 5 ranks, then you can kind of assume that it's not going to be correct English. And this is really useful for things like definite and indefinite articles like a and the, which many Polish people have problems with when speaking English. So, for example, if I Google the high-level documentation, I won't get any hits because it's sort of abnormal. And there's no rules against it. It's just that no one's using it. But that's good for you because Google is able to find that construction for you. The same goes with the other article, A. I mean, Google's very good at finding it, but these are my tips for documentation, and also the conclusion of my presentation. I'm here in Warsaw, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to say about challenges that you face as entrepreneurs communicating in English, because that's sort of what I'm really interested in and my area of expertise. So feel free to talk to me after this talk, and I'm also, like I said, I live in Warsaw, so I'm accessible to you at any time. There's my email, and I'd appreciate it if you'd go to speaker rate and then rate the talk. And thank you very much.
Sorry. What is the most pathetic thing you've ever heard from anyone you've met in Poland, which kind of states that we don't know English in the way it works by thinking?
I don't think there actually are so many examples as the times in which Polish people tell me, like, they refer to being Polish in the diminutive or in like a negative way. I'm surprised by that sometimes because it just shocks me. Like I'm not expecting someone to say, "Oh, well, sorry, it's because I'm Polish," or yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if there's a particular phrase that I can remember off the top of my head, but
From the mountain.
I do know that one. That one's okay. I mean, I like the expressions that Polish has. I think it's a more effective language, actually, than English.
Because English demands more thinking to construct a sentence, and Polish demands less thinking to construct a sentence that kind of sounds well.
It's actually the opposite.
Yeah, I think so because. And the thing is that there are only 4 cases in English, so it can actually be said that English is one of the more simplistic languages out there.
To use your thoughts in Polish and to compress them into something.
Well, it's actually a Slavic language, so Slavic languages don't have a dedicated word order, and it's hard to say. There's no such thing really as a more difficult language. It depends what your native language is. So for me, Polish is in one of the top 10 hardest languages to learn, but of course for Russians or, other Slavic languages, they can pick up on it really easily because all of the cases and all of the same concepts are there.
Can you provide any good resources for practicing English?
So the question was, can I provide resources for practicing English? For speaking, for... Mhm. Right. For writing, there isn't much out there directly for business Polish to English, which is kind of something that I'm working on. So I'm here to find out those sorts of questions.
Cialdini's book, which name is How to Influence People or something. It says about most of the things that you just told us about. It's one of the rules of, I don't know how to say it, but when you say something good to someone, he feels inside himself to give this good to you.
Yeah,
This is the
yeah.
first rule. And there's a lot of rules in Cialdini's book. Really? Yeah, exactly. So Cialdini's book, How to Influence People, is the best thing for every one of you to read, because this is a lot simpler when you use text instead of...
It won't teach grammatic
But
structure
it's a
and so on.
start, and when you start with the basic knowledge, you can continue with the entrepreneur pitching skills and stuff.
So
Okay, we have a kind of a discussion here. Do we have any more questions, like very specific questions at the moment?
if you guys have any more questions, I'll be around, so you can ask me after the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you.